Okay, so what's up with all these crazy reports of Kenny Pickett outperforming Jalen Hurts at OTAs? Meanwhile, AJ Brown looks scary, as Kellen Moore's plans on how to utilize him are simply unfair for other DBs. Plus, how likely is it for rookie Johnny Wilson to carve out a role? And Isaiah Rodgers made a statement with his play the first week, so what are his chances of starting? And either way, why should we be so optimistic? Let's talk about it, but first, let's run it. What's up, guys? So let's start with a little shade towards Antonio Brown. After Gardner Johnson dropped a new single called Motion to celebrate Kellen Moore's offense, and then AB proceeded to call it trash. Now, the next part of the story went just about how you'd expect, with Deuce dropping a diss track about Antonio Clown, and then the two went back and forth on Twitter. Look, honestly, yeah, it's just some Twitter beef, but I can appreciate the fact that CJ doesn't take crap from anybody. Of course, sure, AB has definitely shown signs of going off the deep end. Yet the more relevant part to me from this is, unlike last season when some of the guys just let the whiners push us around pregame, CJ ain't gonna let that happen, because he's a dog. And honestly, good on Chauncey for diversifying his income. Because a recent report from Sports Illustrated estimated that 80% of NFL players go broke within their first 3 years after leaving the league. For the record, no, that's not like lower-end players, that includes dudes who got a massive payday. But speaking of a massive payday, AJ Brown is making the most of his contract by posting a pic of him after a workout on Instagram. And I'd say it's fair to say he's living up to his Swole Batman nickname. I mean, obviously he's put in work in the past, but you can tell it's different, with AJ saying he's limiting his social media to focus on being the best player he can be. Like, how can't you love hearing that? Seriously, this dude just had a season with 106 catches for nearly 1,500 yards and 7 touchdowns, but has also been recently clocked as being the fastest ever in his career, getting up to 22 miles per hour, which is incredible, especially because he's doing that at 6'1", 230 pounds. Yet probably the biggest surprise is that Kellen Moore is looking at using AJ Moore in the slot. Now, for those counting, 11 has played in the slot sporadically, but based on initial reports from OTAs, it was significantly more usage of motion and moving AJ to the slot to take advantage of mismatches. Not gonna lie, I kind of just assumed more of that for Devontae Smith and less for AJ. I don't know why, but it just makes perfect sense because the dude's a nightmare. For real, I mean, can you imagine a slot corner trying to guard AJ? I mean, it's already hard enough for the outside corners, but now you add that possibility of his size and speed and athleticism and everything else. Anyway, just something to keep an eye on throughout the offseason, but what are your expectations for Swole Batman? Oh yeah, and while we're at it, why not just give another jersey away? All you gotta do is make sure and hit that like button first, and then obviously be sure to subscribe to the channel, and then after subscribing, go on down to the comments and enter AJ, where one person will win any AJ Brown jersey of their choice via the randomized comment picker during my live stream on Friday. Which, by the way, speaking of giveaways, congratulations to Doug Simmons for winning the 2 Eagles tickets giveaway. All I need you to do, Doug, is contact me at thephillyspecialshow@gmail.com so that I can verify it's you and then let me know which game you want to go to. I should also point out that you have 1 week to respond, otherwise the 2,334 other entries will get a shot at it.
People down here are starting to murmur that you don't have the balls to do it.
1 week. Don't test me. By the way, we will have other ticket giveaways in the future. But anyway, back to the whole receiver situation. It'll be interesting to see what the Birds do on the outside, because while John Ross is a potential option, I'm not entirely sold on him. Of course, you could throw out 6th-round pick Johnny Wilson as a potential backup, especially with Tomahawk Nation listing the 6 things you should know about the Rook, saying his big playability can't be overlooked, and obviously he has a knack for making big plays on 3rd down and in big moments, along with Wilson also being an underrated run blocker and showing constant willingness to put the team ahead of his ego. Also probably a given, but his ability on back shoulder fades is without a doubt one of the best facets of his game. However, like most of you probably know by now, Wilson has suffered some awful drops and constantly spent time on the jugs machine to correct it, but nothing really ever came from it, which is why ultimately I'm not really sure where to put him. Sure, I like his size, 6'7", 235 pounds, and ability for mismatches, yet I'm just not nearly as confident in him having any meaningful role in his rookie year. But who knows, I could be dead wrong. It just doesn't feel like Philly has quite the depth you want at outside receiver. Although not really a problem you could say for the corner spot, with 14 guys vying for at best 7 positions. And sure, we're incredibly early into OTAs. However, there was one dude in particular who stood out, as Isaiah Rodgers was noted by multiple media members in attendance to not look like he had much rust. Again, that was one of the biggest questions for the 26-year-old since he literally sat out a year serving the suspension. Yet after Rodgers posted tweets to ensure everyone he's still the same corner he was, it's really encouraging to see that in the first week of team practices. Now again, as a reminder, Isaiah only lined up on the outside, not the slot, so it will be interesting to see how that changes as things go on. But either way, imagine if he's able to return to the form he had before the suspension. You know, the 5th best overall graded cornerback in the NFL in 2022. And honestly, I appreciate the confidence, with the former 6th-round pick saying he's not going anywhere and then he's here to stay. Now, I get it if you want to argue that's a little big-headed and maybe is full of himself, although he has backed it up so far, which is why I'm hyped to see this progression and battle at corner progress. At the same time, while Slay's a believer, there's one area that might have gone to his head.
He's been a great addition. I've been seeing him making plays. I watched the film a couple of times. He's made a lot of PBUs, a lot of stuff. He's the next ones that want to race me because he think he's faster than me too, so we're going to have to make that happen, so I'm going to have to race him. But other than that, been a good addition, been great. Man, I watched his tape in Indy, and, he was making plays there, great in special teams as a returner. So he got a lot of tools, man. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in action and out here competing because he could do it all, outside, inside, whatever he need to do. So we got a lot of guys in this secondary this year can be very versatile. I'm feeling great. I honestly feel like I'm like 25 again, feeling good. I came a couple of times in OTAs before we put 7-on-7. Guys wanted to race. Guess who won? The 33-year-old guy. You know what I'm saying? I just let them know, like, the wheels are back. So y'all better be ready.
It's great that Slay still has the wheels, but come on, he's getting burnt on this one. I mean, I'd love to see the race, but even Slay came back to say it'd have to be a 20-yard race for him to have a chance. Again, the best part about all of this is just seeing the guys competing. However, on that note, let's get into this whole Kenny Pickett outperforming Jalen Hurts BS. Like, I get that it grabs headlines, but it serves as another reminder to beware who you're getting the info from. After ML Football decided to post it as if we're talking about Pickett overtaking Jalen as the QB, and then subsequently deleted it. When in actuality, SI's Ed Cracks wrote an article entitled Eagles OTA Overreactions, saying Pickett looked sharp and even sharper than Hurts, to be honest, but that Jalen also looked good. Plus, the additional context is that the Philly media has literally only gotten one practice to watch 7-on-7s. So come on, I mean, we weren't there at the other practices, so who knows how he performed there. Plus, let's just not get carried away because, again, this won't be the last time there's a fake report about Kenny Pickett and Jalen Hurts.
Think about it. Watch the angles. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. You're better than that.
I will say, yes, it's not a bad thing to have a good QB2. Heck, we know that better than most everyone. Like, no way the Eagles win a Super Bowl without Nick Foles. So great, I'm happy that Pickett looks sharp. I mean, he's obviously an upgrade from Mariota, but he still is your QB2. Of course, with all the storylines and reports and takeaways from the first week of Eagles OTAs, I had to get Pro Football Network's Anthony DiBona's thoughts on everything Birds. Let's start right now with OTA takeaways. Tons of different storylines. Granted, it's just the first week, so we try to temper somewhat of expectations because there's a long way to go, and there's really only one media session that people actually got a glimpse in. But so far, Quinyon Mitchell, the main reports there looked pretty solid. Second team reps, made a couple plays. What do you make so far from Quinyon Mitchell? We had the hype off the draft, but the little glimpses that we've had from behind the scenes so far, Quinyon Mitchell, the news there.
I mean, I think it's great news. Obviously, you don't want to hear that he's getting smoked in practice, so anything positive is good, especially because playing cornerback is probably the toughest position to play right away in the NFL. So the fact that he's kind of playing well already is a good spot. But, I mean, some people were panicked because he wasn't with the first team right away. But if you just look historically, that's really not what the Eagles do under Nick Sirianni. They kind of bring the younger guys along a little bit slower. I mean, by the end of training camp, he'll probably be with the starters over Isaiah Rodgers. But, I mean, I wouldn't be too scared about that now. But to hear that he's playing well is obviously encouraging. Absolutely.
Yes. I'm right there with you. And also, it's worth bringing up and pointing out, too, because understandably, there's still comments. We've talked about it a little bit before, but not having signed, Quinyon Mitchell is the only rookie who has not officially signed yet. There's no reason to be concerned because we've talked about before, it has happened with other players, but just to double check and make sure, no concerns, right? Even though he's out there, hasn't got the contract signed, no concerns.
Just like with Devontae Smith earlier in the offseason, I'm going to quote Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, relax, everything's going to be fine. Like you said, it's already slotted, so it's just come down to usually like signing bonus, things like that. Like that's because really that's the only thing that they can kind of mess with these contracts. So, I mean, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Right. He's not going to get a Marvin Harrison Jr. signing bonus. Let's just say that. But he could get a pretty good one, but it's nowhere near that range. $22.5 million. That's insane. It's just a different time, So, but it is exciting to see him, like you say, and the fact that he's made a couple plays, being a competitor. We see very little, glimpses or highlights. It'd be awesome if the Eagles channel wanted to give us a little bit more. I feel like they're just playing with us because we get like these little tidbits, and all these other teams, you see tons of highlights and plays and 7-on-7 and everything else, and it's like, hey, here's one little C.J. Gardner Johnson thing or like a little, drill. That's it.
I think they learned their lesson after everybody got so excited about Jalen Reagor getting that one-handed catch that
fair,
1 year,
yeah.
that play. Now they're probably like, let's just keep it limited. Let the media guys throw a couple things out there, and then we'll just keep it small. So, I mean, that might be the better course of action to kind of keep the hype down a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. I'll give it to you. But still, you know, it's May and like we're starving over here. There's only so much that we can talk about and see and, you know, analyze, especially when they want to give us like one highlight clip over the course of a week. So anyway, that's where we're at. But yes, I'm excited for Quinyon Mitchell. I know a lot of people are. And to your point, it's like it's probably a better thing, honestly. You have him running at the second team, not the first team. No need to, you know, go up against AJ or Devontae and get your confidence just absolutely hurt from the get-go. You know, like, all right, ease into it, understand the system, NFL speed, the drills, all that. Then there you go. Here's Devontae Smith. Here's AJ Brown. See what you can do. You know, have your battles there because he's going to lose. But it's, I mean, who else would be better to match up against? Quite honestly.
Like I said before, with the Senior Bowl practices and stuff too, it's like those drills, especially like one-on-one drills, which weren't permitted at OTAs, but like those drills are just made for the offense to win because it's just in open space, no help. It's just going to be a mess. So, I mean, the fact that he held up in team drills is encouraging, but even if he did struggle, it's not the end of the world.
Right. Also, one guy to bring up too. I mean, we mentioned guys who, you know, made a couple plays, had their names thrown out there. Andrew DiCecco had mentioned that Isaiah Rodgers was one in particular that stood out to him, and a couple other reporters did as well through 7-on-7. So, you know, like you say, it's a little bit easier for the offense, or maybe made for the offense in that way because of just the space and the speed and the creativity and all that stuff. So it's not really totally fair, and there's not as much of a legit pass rush. I guess you could just have an internal clock, so to speak, but still, it's easier on the offense. But Isaiah Rodgers going out there looking fairly sharp from all accounts. Didn't actually get to see the footage there, but again, from the reports, they're saying that he was. It's promising, right? I mean, the fact that this guy's coming off of a year-long suspension, is there the possibility? I know you mentioned Quinyon Mitchell, you know, we can relax, he's going to be good, he's going to be fine. Is there the possibility, because it's worth pointing out, he did play outside. Some people were speculating, does he play slot? Does he play outside? So far, the only report that we had is that he was the outside corner. Now, we are very early again, so who knows how long, you know, and how many different movements that he has in Fangio's defense. But, I mean, we got to take it as a positive, right? The fact that we at least see that he made some plays, he broke up some passes and everything on that side.
Yeah, 100%, because I feel like a lot of people were constantly reminding me, especially on Twitter, whenever I mentioned the possibility of him playing in the slot, that like he was a top 5 cornerback according to PFF on the outside. Like, what are you talking about? So, I mean, but now that they already showed that Avonte Maddox was the starter in the slot, now Cooper DeJean, who I eventually think will be the starter, was working behind him. Then you have a guy like Tyler Hall as well. So, I mean, they have a lot more like players in the slot to work with than they normally do. So I think Rodgers, he's played most of his career in college and in the NFL on the outside. So, obviously, James Bradberry, we don't know what's going on with him. He wasn't there. So he obviously, I mean, we all feel like we think he's going to be cut at some point or maybe traded if some other cornerback gets hurt. But I think his days are numbered in Philly. So I think Rodgers could be that next guy. I mean, if they don't want to thrust Mitchell into action early in the regular season, who knows? Maybe Rodgers does start for the beginning because he is a proven player on the outside. And then you kind of work Mitchell in slowly. So honestly, it's just a good position for the Eagles to be in because after what they dealt with last year outside of Darius Slay, I feel like Keely Ringo showed a little bit of glimpses here and there, but he wasn't consistent either. So the fact that you kind of have a definite experienced option on the outside opposite of Slay is just a good spot to be in.
You're right. And again, we always say it, but it's like the depth is very hard to believe and come to terms with the fact that that's actually there this season. But yeah, the fact that Isaiah Rodgers is making plays. He's very confident. You know, if you follow him on Twitter, what he's been saying, he's like, I'm here to stay. This is me. I'm not leaving. I'm in Philly. He's posting some highlight stuff.
To give him some credit, it seemed like he wore his helmet the whole year he was off. He had an Eagles helmet
it's
on.
True.
So, I mean, clearly the guy's been working for this moment. So
absolutely, never a day off. That's a good point. And also, you know, he had the all white helmet, which was pretty dope. Like that one actually looked pretty fresh. But I was like, you know, are they actually unveiling something, or how did he get his hands on it? Whatever. But he was ready to go. So kudos to him. But that was the question. It'll continue to obviously be the question because again, this is without pads and you know going full force and everything. But like, is there some rust? Is he able to adjust very quickly? We'll see. But yeah, also, you know, everybody knows the fact that he has been a solid corner on the outside. And if Fangio views him that way, or he decides, you know what, hey, let's have a veteran play there first, and then Quinyon behind, I don't know. I'd probably lean towards still Quinyon. I know a lot of people would have getting him in there, but to your point, it's not impossible because of Isaiah Rodgers and the ability and talent that he has. So interesting there. You did mention Cooper DeJean, and obviously we have to talk about him because you know, there's so much to get into with his versatility, but I think that you hit the nail on the head whenever you kind of analyze the importance, I guess, of him being in multiple spots, even in that first media session practice. But for those that may not have seen it, or your tweet they're referencing, why is it a little bit unusual for a player because of Fangio and the way he does things? And also, why is it really good because it's Cooper DeJean in this Eagles defense?
Yeah, so Vic Fangio literally said during his press conference with the media that, like, because he was asked about Cooper DeJean specifically about like his versatility in college and how that could translate to the NFL. And he basically said, like, listen, with young guys, you usually don't want them to play multiple positions, especially to start, because you kind of want to get them comfortable at one spot and then kind of move them around if they can handle that. Not necessarily because of the physical workload, because of the mental workload. But sure enough, first OTA practice that was open to the media, and DeJean's already playing 2 different spots. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive for a rookie, let alone anybody, to be doing that. So, I mean, it's obviously a good spot. And then DeJean's also working with the returners. So, I mean, the guy must have had a stunt double out there because it seemed like he was all over the field doing everything. So, I mean, it's a good sign because, like, if Fangio already said that he doesn't like working guys out in different spots and he's already doing it in basically his second practice with the full team, that's certainly notable. Absolutely.
And to your point, it's like if there was even a tiny bit of hesitation there, you would say, all right, let's ease into this, right? Like if by training camp, okay, that's one thing because you've had months of, you know, make sure you understand things and all this. This is OTAs. So you're the first week of OTAs, the first media session, which you also know is going to be scrutinized like crazy because the media is there for the first time. It's like the only time they're able to get eyes on these guys. So for him to have the confidence alone to get him in there, and it was second team as the nickel, third team as the outside corner, and eventually got a little bit from where I'd seen a couple tweets, maybe a little bit of second team also on the outside. But there's kind of rotating guys, understandably. But still, the fact that it's there, and then also, oh, by the way, let's have you, return some punts. So we'll see, but they obviously view him, and he even admitted, he's like, hey, I'm a football player, asking about where he's going to play. It feels like, naturally from the positions that we've seen him currently, that it's like, hey, try him out at corner, whether that is nickel or outside, and also could be punt returner. Maybe not necessarily so much of a safety, but it was interesting to see Avonte Maddox, you brought his name up, of starting slot very early, but starting slot corner, but also got a little bit of work in the safety position. So maybe possibility Fangio views him a little bit more positively than some might assume.
Well, that's just huge because if you just look at the Eagles' situation at safety, they really only have 3 guys that you're comfortable and then can kind of guarantee a roster spot in Gardner Johnson, Reed Blankenship, and Sidney Brown, who's recovering from a torn ACL. So, I mean, if Avonte Maddox can kind of be that slot, either if he's starting or the backup, and then also be a reserve that Fangio is comfortable with at safety as well, that would kind of lock him into a roster spot because they don't really have that fourth safety right now. And if he can kind of offer that versatility, and he obviously has a relationship with the current coaching staff, like Nick Sirianni, players like Dallas Goedert, everybody's talked about their relationship. So, I mean, to have a guy like that seems like he's well-liked in the locker room, to keep him around for next to nothing on his current contract now. They're going to be paying him dead money, so it kind of makes sense to keep him around too if they do find value in him, just because they're going to be paying him some money anyway. So, I mean, the fact that he played both of those, again, this early in the offseason is certainly a good idea for him.
Another guy we had to bring up, obviously, again, this early in the offseason, but to see it because we were talking about the last time that we recorded of, like, hey, did Fangio, is he giving away something? Is there a little bit of a tell for Zack Baun, linebacker position? Will he be the inside linebacker? Is he going to be an edge? We will say this a million different times. Yes, it's incredibly early within OTAs, but he was out there, him and Devin White, as the starting linebackers in the 7-on-7 scenario. Any changes, any thoughts? I'm curious with your takes there. I saw some tweets, but we haven't actually recorded since that moment. So any new fresh thoughts on Zack Baun and Fangio's defense?
I mean, it's interesting because now we know that Fangio is kind of a man of his word, because a lot of times people, especially coaches or GMs, will say something to the media and then you see something completely different on the field. But Baun was getting the reps there, so clearly they feel comfortable doing it or at least trying him there. I had some Saints fans tweet at me saying, oh, God, you don't want to see him in coverage. Blah, 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 things like that. But I mean, we'll see what happens. Obviously, like, you don't know until he's never really played in there. So, I mean, if you look at his stats, even going back to college, all of his snaps, I think it was like 75 or 80% of his snaps are on the edge outside of the offensive tackle. So it's really not something that he's really done. I mean, he has the size that would be great to have there at inside linebacker because Devin White and Quinyon Mitchell are obviously smaller guys. So, I mean, to have him there would bring a little bit more size and versatility if Fangio wants to bring blitzes and stuff like that. obviously Baun has experience rushing the passer. So it would kind of just offer some versatility where they can kind of, maybe one play they have him inside, then one play they kind of move him outside without having to change their personnel on the field. They can kind of give the offense different looks. So, I mean, it's interesting to have him work in there. And everybody mentioned him being compared to Andrew Van Ginkel. And Van Ginkel kind of did the same thing in Miami, where he was an inside, outside, until they had a bunch of injuries on the outside. Then he kind of had to stay on the edge. So it's just that versatility is, and given Philadelphia's lack of depth at linebacker, I feel like it's not a bad problem to have.
I love the versatility. Like you say, it's a great problem to have. And also, you know, it's fair. Yes, the whole, is he going to be good in coverage? Is that going to be a possibility? Who knows? It is interesting because it'll be the continual conversation as we go into preseason and beyond. Like, he was a stud as a pass rusher in college. Like, you know, I think everybody knows that. He was 13 and a half sacks, I think, his last year before he got drafted. And so, you know, he was dominant in that position. The thought would have naturally been, and we continue to say it, but I'm interested if and when, you know, it may be 2 or 3 months before we get another Fangio presser. That might just be kind of the regular occurrence. We don't get to talk to him too often, but every 2 or 3 months. But eventually when he goes back to the podium, that's got to be a follow-up question, right? Because it's like a continual, hey, you said this, now we've seen Baun, and after we've seen a little bit more in 7-on-7s, is he a potential candidate there? Is that where he's legit, you know, going to be full-time in a sense? Is that where you see him? A long way to go with the linebacker core, but I think it's definitely telling, and I'll probably, until proven otherwise, let me just say, I will probably continue to die on this hill of Zack Baun is more than likely going to start along with Devin White. Could be dead wrong. That's my take.
That would be crazy, and I feel like it would just bring so much more like size and versatility to the position that they've been missing, because obviously Nakobe Dean is a small linebacker. Devin White's not the biggest guy either, so just to have that different look would be interesting. But it would also be hilarious if we never see Zack Baun play inside linebacker again. And it was kind of Vic Fangio kind of messing with the media. Like, look, this whole practice that was open to you guys, he was playing it. And then he just never plays there again. So,
yes.
I mean, I think I tweeted it as well that, like, maybe they know he has experience on the edge, so they kind of early in these kind of, I guess you could say, like, warm-up practices, they kind of just throwing him in there just to see how he looks because they know they can trust him on the edge. But I mean, even then, I feel like you wouldn't want to waste these reps. So I think it's notable. That's
fair. That's definitely fair. Yeah, if he was to, that would be the ultimate like switcheroo there of hey, it looks like he is, and all of a sudden in training camp he never plays another rep in training camp at the inside position. You're like, I know he's outside. He's an edge rusher. That's all he is. But I do love the versatility, like you say. There's lots of potential there. So I keep on going back and forth. It feels like to me, corner is for sure. I just don't think you can argue against the most competition, the most competitiveness on that side. Linebacker is another one to watch. Right guard is also interesting, so it's worth bringing up. You know, naturally, Tyler Steen had a press conference, and I love the wording that he used. Instead of it's, hey, your job to lose, he said it's my job to earn. Like, I still got to go out there and prove it. And we've heard the right things from a number of different players in these press conferences, but I think you could see and feel the maturity from Tyler Steen 1 year to the second year of, you know, naturally you got acclimated to the NFL speed and competition and just the daily grind and everything else. And, you know, he also kind of talked about getting ready for an NFL season as a whole. He didn't specifically say the right guard position, but you kind of felt like he was leaning in that direction. But overall, again, I think it's positivity because of what you've seen, the mindset that he has, and it certainly feels like he's going to be that favorite. But you know, I would assume, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, there's still certainly competition on that side, but what are the benefits, I suppose, of Steen's mentality and kind of what he took away from the press conference?
Well, yeah, I tweeted that quote right away too because it caught my eye. I think that's a great mindset for him to have because, especially after last season, I feel like it was kind of like a reality check for him because, I mean, he sees these other guys that he probably thinks he's better than getting opportunities before him. Then he finally gets his chance to play. It was inconsistent. I mean, he played well for the most part, but he did give up some rushes. So, I mean, probably plenty of things that he wants back about his rookie season. He said his conditioning wasn't as great. He worked on that this offseason. But, I mean, you got to think this guy was a starter on Alabama's offensive line for quite a bit. And I feel like that's like to then be basically on the bench the entire season and see other guys that were undrafted free agents or late picks get in there over you. It was kind of like a slap in the face to him. And I mean, honestly, he probably needed it because now it seems like he has a completely different mindset. Not that we really heard him talk much as a rookie, but I mean, it seems like he's saying all the right things. I mean, he's doing the right things. People are saying that he was impressive on the field. So I mean, the earlier you want that spot solidified because you want those reps, and especially in a new offense, you want those guys playing together. You don't really want to be playing musical chairs and putting him and then putting Trevor Keegan with the ones and then whoever else you want to throw in there, Hennessy or whatever. So you rather have that stability because my brother's a Giants fan and he's getting mad at Brian Daboll because they're literally swapping their entire offensive line like for first team drills. And he's like, no, you need to settle on a group and go with it. So, I mean, the Eagles have the luxury that we know 4 of the 5 are locked in, but it sure seems like Tyler Steen's going to be that 5th guy and the starter at right guard.
You certainly, to your point, yes. We don't need the musical chairs. Absolutely nothing like New York, let's be honest. So, apologies to your brother there, but please no, nothing of New York. We took the last remaining piece of anything really for the most part of Saquon Barkley and do not copy anything as far as the O-line goes. But also, I mean, you say it there, but like the 4 of the 5, Cam Jurgens is going to, and I guess already has, based on what Tyler Steen was saying, make any significant impact for him, right? Because he played right guard, so he kind of knows already. He not only of just the familiarity, but I think it's great to have the actual experience so he can relate to Tyler Steen and say, hey, this is what I dealt with, right? Like I played, I forget how many exact games because he was out and injured and whatnot, but more than half the season at right guard, and so now he's moved over to center. He's got some of the checks, able to communicate on that side. What benefit do you see for Beef Jerky being right guard last year, now at the center spot and working alongside Steen?
Well, prior to last season, I was kind of one of the ones that was advocating for Jurgens to kind of just sit the year behind Kelsey, not play right guard at all. But then when you hear Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni talk about the importance of these young guys having players in front of them that they're learning from that have actually done what they're doing. So, I mean, now that's kind of important that you bring it up because Cam Jurgens, like you said, he played right guard basically a full season or in and out of the lineup, but a lot more starts than Tyler Steen has. So the fact that he's kind of able to literally be lined up next to him in practice and then in games, and then he's kind of able to say, hey, look, I did this last year. Here's what you could do. Or obviously they're different body styles, but I mean, right guard is right guard. So, I mean, things might be different in Kellen Moore's offense, but there's still plenty of stuff that Jurgens can pass on to him. Obviously, Landon Dickerson can help. Trevor Keegan can help, even though he's coming from college. He has experience at guard. So I think it's only going to help Tyler Steen being in that room, being coached by Jeff Stoutland. I feel like he has all the potential. It's just about putting it all together. So
I'm very excited too. Let me just say this, but very excited for Cam Jurgens at the center spot. And it's not to do, obviously, again, any discredit or like, oh my gosh, thank goodness Jason Kelsey's gone. I think everyone understands that, but let me just say that in case there's a few out there that are like, what are you talking about? But still, like, again, Cam Jurgens was selected, handpicked by Jason Kelsey to be the replacement. And we've talked about it a number of times, but he's going to be good as a center. I know we haven't seen it, and yes, he has to prove it, but out of all the replacements, out of guys that are going to have to be turned over, I mean, I would put him right up there. This may be too high, but I would put him right up there in terms of my confidence level of Jalen Carter to replace Fletcher Cox's productivity as Cam Jurgens to replace Jason Kelsey's productivity. Is that too far off? Where are you, close in that proximity, or where's the confidence level for Cam Jurgens?
I mean, I feel like for Cam Jurgens, the biggest drop-off might just be the leadership between him and Kelsey in the locker room because obviously that veteran presence is going to be a whole lot different, but it seems like Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts are taking a step forward as far as the offensive leaders go, so that's good to see. But on the field, I mean, if you look at his tape in college, and he played a little bit of center during the preseason, I believe, during his rookie season, you could see the athleticism, and it really stands out much more than it did at guard because he's just able to snap the ball and get out and get to the second level, get to the third level. And I mean, I remember people were crowning him the next Kelsey after a couple of snaps, and now he's going to have the opportunity for the full season. So it's just going to be a much more natural fit. It's the position he played the most in college. So, I mean, size-wise, athleticism-wise, it's just going to be a much better spot for him than right guard. But clearly they wanted to get him on the field, get him some experience, and not waste his second season. But now I feel like we're really going to see him flourish. Because a lot of people, like you said, were doubting him after last year because he kind of started well at right guard, then he kind of fell off a little bit. But this is a whole different ball game because it's where he wants to play and where he has played.
Right. And it's a whole different team, again, a whole different ball game. It's totally changed. And I know the hope is and the feeling is, right, that there's momentum, that it's headed in the right direction. You made the correct changes. That's what we are really hoping and thinking that we'll see. Naturally, one of those that is a vast majority in agreement is, you know what, let's move on of Quez Watkins. That was not really going to work, so he's gone. Now there's whoever wide receiver 3 will be. It could be a Parris Campbell. It could be an Ainias Smith. maybe there's another move that you make for wide receiver. It feels like it could be more of a depth signing if you do something. But before we get into, because there was already a depth signing, before we get into one of those, Parris Campbell naturally getting those first-team reps. It's not surprising, especially, not that Ainias Smith was going to anyway because he's a rookie, but he's still sitting out with a shin fracture. But Parris Campbell made some plays, according to the media reports, and the 7-on-7s there. Had a couple of flashes showcasing the speed. May have looked a little bit bigger or bulked up, I don't know, from previous season, or at least what people had expected. So any takeaways from Parris Campbell, anything on that side within the offense and wide receiver 3?
Well, real quick, that's like my favorite part of OTAs is like you saw the Jordan Davis picture too, where he was at the autism bicycle thing and stuff. Where like,
analysis.
Oh my God, he looks. I kind of like sarcastically tweeted that the girl was saying, "Oh my God, he looks so much thinner," because it's like I think every offseason somebody looks like they either got drastically bigger or drastically smaller, and they're going to have an All-Pro season. It's just it's just so fun. But more seriously, I think Parris Campbell's a solid receiver. I feel like he's dealt with injuries quite a bit in his career. I think he looked good in Indianapolis, obviously, when Nick Sirianni was there. So they have that kind of connection where they were working together. So that familiarity, I feel like he's going to be – the Eagles really haven't had that real slot receiver that you think of where it's a kind of a guy that plays a majority of the snaps there. I feel like they were kind of just throwing guys in there and hoping that it worked. But because Quez Watkins wasn't really a natural slot. He was just a fast guy that they were kind of using as a decoy. He wasn't the greatest route runner. He wasn't really going to do the dirty work after the catch. We know that for a fact. So we saw it, unfortunately. But I just feel like Parris Campbell's a much better – like wide receiver 3 for Philadelphia in their current situation. Obviously, Ainias Smith is kind of like their long-term Parris Campbell because he's a very similar skill set, but obviously a higher ceiling at this point in their careers. But I just feel like Campbell with the familiarity with Sirianni, and it seems like the reports were saying that Jalen Hurts was targeting him a ton, which is obviously important because we know Jalen Hurts didn't like targeting guys like Jack Stoll. So if he doesn't like you, he's not going to throw you the ball. So establishing that early connection is important. So obviously, that was encouraging to see.
It certainly was. I'm just going to leave this here and just kind of ask it straightforward. The John Ross signing. What do you feel? There's people on both sides naturally, but where is this? What should people be thinking about John Ross? You needed a depth signing, sure, because Devontae Parker had retired, but where yet?
Well, once again, another thing I was killed on Twitter for was after Devontae Parker was
I can't
released,
imagine.
I was like, hey, the Eagles are probably going to sign somebody that's played a majority of their snaps on the outside. If his snaps in the NFL on the outside, he has that speed, that kind of Quez Watkins ability, but probably worse than Quez Watkins, which isn't great news. But he's probably just a camp body. People were like, oh, he signed a 1-year deal, but he has to sign a 1-year deal. That's just how things go. So I wouldn't make too much of it. I just think that he worked out for them at rookie minicamp, so clearly he's trying to come back. He hasn't played a game since 2021 or whatever it was, so I mean, obviously the odds are against him of making the final roster, but if the Eagles really like his speed and feel like that's an element that they need to keep around, then maybe he sticks around. But it seems like more of like a veteran practice squad guy that they can kind of keep on the back burner in case they need anybody. But he just offers that outside depth that they didn't really have.
I'm in agreement there too, yes, because to your point, it's you've seen the numbers on him. He hasn't played an NFL game since 2021. He's I do understand it because there's a couple that are like, hey, this could be good. Maybe it is. Maybe you find something there. But I understand the former first-round pick. So sometimes, but this is not as most people think. I think no, but this is not a former first-round pick that it's 2 years removed from or something, right? Like, this is a guy who retired and called it quits and even got signed by Kansas City and didn't see the field, and they needed receivers and did not see the field there. So like, the writing is on the wall, I think, and I'm in agreement with you on that side. But you never know. To your point, it's a 1 year. I did see some of those comments. So it's like, yeah, he signed the 1 year contract as opposed to what, like the 1 month contract, the standard issued 1 month contract.
It's like the NBA. They want like a 10-day contract,
right.
And then he could sign another 10-day contract. It's just like, no, he has to sign a 1 year deal.
Of course, it's like, yeah, it's the only one they're going to go with. So it's wrong sport. We're almost there. But hey, we hear and see all of these reports and everything else, and some of them are accurate, some of them are off the wall and crazy and overblown and everything else. And then there's overreactions, such as the Kenny Pickett rumor and outperforming Jalen Hurts, right? So this is one of those that, again, I've said it a number of times. I saw you tweeting about it too, several other people as well. Careful where you get your info from and who you're believing and things like this, especially when people take things out of context, because shout out to Ed Cracks, had a good article. It was entitled Eagles Overreactions. It's literally just, hey, here's what happened, but it's overreactions. And in it, he said that Kenny Pickett had played well. He probably played better than Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts also played well. And then you get a snippet from that. Someone says it, another account overblows it, and it's just ridiculous. It's madness. So it's ridiculous. It's fake. But, of course, people are going to run with it and go, oh, Jalen Hurts is their concern here. I didn't think it would be May when we got these. I was already prepared, yes, for training camp, because there's going to be a day when Kenny Pickett looks great, Jalen Hurts throws an interception or two, and people are going to go, oh my gosh, is Jalen going to lose the job? But I didn't expect it to be May. What was your takeaway from this? How ridiculous? Is it overblown? I did see some of the tweets, but I'm curious to get your thoughts.
I mean, I'm not going to go where I should go with this. I'm going to try and reel it in, but it just shows you how lazy people are, because it's just it literally took me 3 seconds to copy and paste 3 words from that screenshot, look it up, and it's oh, this is the article. Let me click the article. I know this is a crazy concept for some people, but you can click an article and read it. And then the headline literally said overreactions. It was an intentional article for overreactions. It was created that way on purpose. But sure enough, I think it was Kenny Pickett's trainer screenshotted it. And then people grabbed that. And then there's obviously these aggregator accounts. I won't mention anybody because they don't need any more attention they already get. But people pay for Twitter, and then they can monetize their content. And then they can put out ridiculous things and stretch the truth and be dishonest. And then people click it and they get paid for it. So unfortunately, that's what happens. But that's why we have to be careful. We have to kind of do our own research. Don't react to things right away. Kind of do a little bit of digging. It's not the most work in the world, but do a little bit. That's why I kind of broke it down and put out a tweet myself. The tweet from one of the accounts eventually got deleted, but they already made their little bit of chump change off of it. So the damage was already done. So, I mean, it's just unfortunately kind of the sports world that we live in, and it kind of ruins it for the people that actually do put out written content and do put in the work. So it sucks in that aspect. But Ed Cracks is a great writer. He's been covering the Eagles for over a decade now. So I kind of wanted to get out in front of it and kind of defend him in a way. So, I mean, it just sucks because, like I said, people can just screenshot or copy and paste what they want to and then kind of just create their own narrative. But unless people actually read the content, then they'll never figure it out for themselves. You're
right, yes. And again, it's kind of telling whenever you get the account that deletes the post. So we'll just say that. I think they understood. It may have taken a little bit, but understood that, well, maybe this wasn't taken the right way. So still, I guess to get back to a little bit more of a serious note and meaningful for the Eagles itself and not the drama of what took place on Twitter, it's good. It's a good thing. We can agree on that. It's a good thing to have a solid backup quarterback. I mean, he's better than Marcus Mariota. And you know what? I saw some people that commented oh, you just hate seeing Jalen Hurts be pushed, or so I know, because first off, he's not being, but also, I want Kenny Pickett to do well. If he throws really good passes in practice, fantastic, because if Jalen Hurts gets injured, knock on wood, fingers crossed that does not happen, but Jalen Hurts plays in a play style that he could get banged up. He might get injured if he's running, if there's a game or two. Yeah, we've seen. I mean, I think more than almost any other organization, we've understood the importance of a QB2. We would not have a Super Bowl if that hadn't taken place. So, just to put it out there, it's a good thing that Kenny Pickett is performing well. It's just another thing to take it and stretch the truth, like you say, of, well, is he going to be QB1? Because my gosh, he's outperforming Jalen Hurts, and it's May 26th here on, at this point. So there's so long to go. And unfortunately, like you say, we probably will hear a lot more of this as time goes on. And, just buckle up, because that's the way things go, especially as soon as we saw the Kenny Pickett trade. The people even then trying to blow it out of proportion. It's hold on, this is depth here. This is a good signing. This could be, someone else, but we'll see where it goes. It does still have impact too with Kellen Moore's offense, and we got reports of there was more motion in practice. There were guys being moved around different spots. I think that's very interesting, exciting. We saw a brief clip, but even one that was, fun to see of Jalen Hurts under center and taking a snap. So what do you take away from that? Again, it's an early practice, but the fact that we're already seeing the motion and the under center plays and kind of emphasis there from Kellen Moore.
Well, it's exactly what we kind of talked about when they announced the hiring of Kellen Moore, was that he was going to bring different looks. And Nick Sirianni even said it, like they needed to kind of update the playbook and kind of adjust how they were doing things because clearly they became too predictable. And like we've talked about it a bunch, but people were reading their plays that weren't even in the game. So, I mean, you can only imagine what the opposing defense was doing. So, I mean, you're seeing now, obviously, them using motion, using Jalen Hurts under center, which is something they never really did last season. When you really look at it, I mean, it's a percent of a percent of a percent. It's really minuscule how they used it before. And if you just think about the personnel that they have on offense now, it opens up so many possibilities. It's not going to be as predictable anymore. Jalen Hurts is going to have more areas of the field to target. He should be throwing in the middle of the field a lot more. We're going to see A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in the slot a lot more. So, and if you just look at the guys that they drafted as well, Ainias Smith is kind of like a gadget guy that was kind of used all over the field that the Eagles really wouldn't usually normally take in the past or even know how to use. So Kellen Moore seems like he's open to kind of using guys like that and finding a role for guys like that. Parris Campbell as well as a guy that's kind of been moved around throughout his career. So it's just going to be refreshing because it shouldn't look anything like what it was in the past. I mean, they're going to use the tush push and maybe some things that worked here and there, but I think it's going to be a really different look for the Eagles offense.
I honestly, whenever I first saw that, I had to kind of go, wait a second, what is that? Is that Jalen Hurts under center? Like, when do we see? There's like 2 plays last year that I can think of Jalen Hurts taking a snap from under center. It's like, my gosh, what is this? So it'll be more of the norm, which is great. And I'm interested to see too. Like again, we talk about all the playmakers they have. Devontae Smith was a kind of an easier one, or kind of more an immediate, like, oh, he could be lined up in the slot. Look at what Kellen Moore could do. But for some reason, and I was susceptible or kind of guilty of this too, of being like, well, A.J. Brown will be mostly outside, right? Like, and he'll still be mostly outside. But I wasn't thinking of it as much of like, well, what if you move him into the slot? What if you motion him into the slot and run some plays there? And again, it was him running some of those. Naturally, Smitty was not there at the practice. Media was, so it could be some of that. But still, you think about the idea of 6'1", 230 A.J. Brown matched up against potentially slot corner, depending on if, it's zone or man or whatever. But still, like, the mismatches are there, and that's the exciting part of what Kellen Moore brings to this offense. Also, do you get some play actions from under center, maybe a bootleg for Jalen Hurts on that side? I am curious to get your thoughts because this became a topic, when there was a viral-ish clip of Jalen Hurts running out. Again, these are these clips that we get that people go crazy for. Does he look faster? Do we analyze him against air, right? And maybe so. Is he? He's probably healthier, sure, but like, do we know he's faster? Is there really a way to prove that? Absolutely not. But having said that, then people are like, oh, it's going to be Jalen Hurts, right? He's going to be running the football a ton more this season. He's going to be, the dual threat that we saw and that we know and loved, everything there. Do you feel like it's going to be, I guess, even a little bit more, but like certainly not a drastic, I feel like. But are we going to see Jalen Hurts running the football? Are we going to get QB draws, or is it just to threaten the defense? Where are you at? Because I've gotten all those from just the full spectrum on both sides.
It was the best. I feel like people were reacting like he ran like a 4.2 at the combine or something like that.
He did.
They were like, oh, did you even see him on that play? He looked like a blur.
I'm telling you, there was a Twitter expert out there that was, I'm sure, timing it and using the math and everything else to figure out he did. He ran a 4.2, unofficial, but a 4.2.
I mean, Eagles fans are the best with stuff like that. I mean, it was so fun to see the reaction to it. People pulling up like clips from his rookie season where he had like a long run against the Packers or whatever.
Yes,
it was.
Yes.
Like, this is the Jalen Hurts that we're going to see. But I mean, if you just look, even how like Kellen Moore used Dak Prescott, he didn't run a ton. So I mean, I don't know. We might see Jalen Hurts run the least that he's ever has in his career. I mean, besides like tush pushes. So I mean, but I think he's just going to become a much more efficient passer, which is at the end of the day what really matters, because that was kind of where their offense fell off last season. So, I mean, I don't know if you really want Jalen Hurts running 10, 15 times a game. I don't know if that's what's going to take the offense to the next level. But I feel like what you want is just to keep the defense honest, to keep them worrying about his legs, because obviously he still is a threat. So you don't want to completely remove like the option or anything like that out of the offense. But I don't know if you need to lean heavily on it. I feel like the offense should be more of a pass-heavy offense where Saquon Barkley is getting most of the carries, and really you kind of use Jalen Hurts' legs whenever you need to, let him improvise. Like you said, the rollouts and the boots and things like that, where he can kind of get on the run and make throws that way, or use his feet as well, because that would kind of stress the defense. But I just feel like they have so many weapons that having Jalen Hurts run 15, 20 times, 10 times, whatever, is just, I don't think it's the recipe for success.
Like you say, I mean, Saquon Barkley, that's the biggest excitement in terms of certainly the running game and what's he going to bring to the table, saying that he feels like a rookie again, which is awesome. I mean, you could just see and feel the vibes. It's funny because I think I saw one comment. I can't remember whether this was on the press conference itself or maybe a tweet, but it was like, Saquon had apparent, like, a little bit of like acne or whatever, like some face stuff. And then like in the interview in Philly, because he's been here for a little while, I was like, oh, he's so happy. It's all cleared up now. Like, right. So he's doing better.
No stress. He's stress-free now.
Yes. He's stress-free. He's loving it, which to your point, like the Philly fans are the best. It is so awesome. All the analysis that we have, the experts out, it's fantastic. So this is so great, but he's stress-free. He's doing well. He feels like a rookie again. How exciting is that? And I guess how important is that not only for, the ramifications of what we see or what we, expect to see on the field, but just the positivity, right? Like the ability or kind of that mentality that he has coming in of being hyped. You can tell that he's excited. He mentioned the guys and seeing who all's in the huddle on the 7-on-7s, but where his headspace is at, and then also kind of how that leads into the leadership that you mentioned earlier with Saquon.
I mean, it's got to be refreshing for him because, not to bash my brother and the Giants again, but like, look at what he was dealing with before. I mean, everybody knew he was getting the ball. I mean, it was just a mess, and their offensive line was never really good while he was there. So, I mean, now he comes into a situation where you have the best offensive line in the league, a ton of weapons for the defense to worry about on the outside, a great proven quarterback as well. So, I mean, it's just, he probably does feel like kind of like a kid in the candy store where he's just like, he mentioned like when he went into the huddle and he's like, oh, there's Dallas Goedert, there's Jalen Hurts, there's Devontae Smith, there's A.J. Brown. Like, before he was like, there's Darius Slayton, there's Isaiah Hodgins, there's
who are you?
Who are the offensive linemen this week? Like,
are you new?
It was just, he was playing for like a G League team, and it's just now it's just like for another basketball reference. But yeah, it's what I've liked most from what I've seen is just like the leadership point, that because I feel like with Jason Kelce leaving, Fletcher Cox leaving, you kind of need those new guys to step up. And I feel like he was a 4 or 5 time captain with the Giants, and he was great with the media in New York, which obviously isn't always the easiest thing to be and deal with the media in New York. So, I mean, the fact that he was able to do that even through tough times, even through contract negotiations and whatnot. So, and then Devin White on the defensive side of the ball, he was a captain in Tampa Bay, and you see him in like these training videos and then the competition videos where he's rooting guys on and getting in your boy Gabe Hall's face and rooting him on in the push-up competition. So,
come on,
I mean, to have those two guys come in and kind of help with the leadership aspect and fill those voids, it's obviously encouraging for the Eagles.
You're going to make me get off on a tangent here because you brought up Gabe Hall, but he won that push-up. He destroyed that push-up contest. Trevor Keegan had no chance. I know that some people were saying, oh, he didn't go all the way down. Just come on, get out of here. He could have done 20 more of those, and Trevor Keegan was struggling. So, sorry for Trevor Keegan.
The banter between the offensive defensive players in the background was funny too. Avonte Maddox like he's bopping his head. He's not going down.
Yeah, he's like, what? Hang on, no. It's like, oh yeah, you gotta love it. But you do bring up a great point of, like you say, the fact that there's little pieces, right? These little crumbs that we can pick up because we are starving for content, and the Eagles social media accounts and YouTube channel and everything else is not giving us a ton. I like the interviews, like the questions to ask Jalen and Howie and Sirianni, guests in stadiums and all that. Like it's cool, but we don't get a whole lot of insight into the team except for some of these competition videos that they throw out there, which is great. But it's like, you're watching behind the scenes, you're seeing how the guys interact, you're watching who's front and center. And without question, it's Devin White has been in a couple of those, and the same thing for Saquon Barkley. He's there cheering those on, and I don't think that's something to just, kind of make a quick note and be like, oh, that's not really a big deal, because, again, if it wasn't them, who's that going to be? Like, you want someone to be that, and so even though they are newer, they're going to be vocal leaders. They're front and center, not afraid to do that, hype the guys up. And so I think it's going to be paying certainly dividends as you move forward. Saquon, naturally he's one of many players on the offense. We'll see how great the offense is because it has all the pieces there. But then the defense has naturally a little bit more questions because of the players and the positions, and certainly with linebacker. Devin White has a ton of ability, and we've seen him be able to play that, but it's been a couple years, right? I mean, it's been a couple years of just, so certainly last year was not great at all, but he's wanting this resurgence, and I think it's very important because he can be a vocal leader. He's been a captain. He's been familiar with wearing the green dot. Where do you see him, especially because he's already getting these early reps? I know Kobe's not 100% and actually practicing, full speed or anything like that. But you mentioned, I think on the last one, it wouldn't surprise you as far as the green dot wearer. Do you feel like he can be that leader, that voice, so to speak? Because we talked a number of times during the season about, like, is there any identity at all? Like, where is this going to come from? Is Devin White one of those guys for the defense?
Absolutely. And I feel like at this point, he's probably the most underrated addition that they've made this offseason because, if you just look, I know people talk about last year and how he wasn't the greatest teammate, didn't want to play certain games, didn't play the greatest with the most effort. But, the guy was an all-pro, Pro Bowl player before that, basically. And, he wanted to get paid. He wasn't rewarded. So, obviously, he was a little pissed off heading into last year and felt like he was probably, overlooked. And, obviously, it wasn't the greatest look for him to act the way he did, and I'm sure he realizes that now based on what he signed with the Eagles. But you're not getting a guy that's washed like Darius Leonard was last year, or a guy like Zach Cunningham or Miles Jack, where they were kind of just moving around the league. You don't know what you're going to get. They're in their late 20s or things like that. Devin White's pretty much still in the prime of his career, and if he can get locked in and really kind of take hold of this opportunity, which I feel like the way everything he's saying and how he's talking about it seems like that's the mentality that he's taking, because all it takes is one great season for the Eagles, and someone's going to give him a pretty damn good contract. If he showcases the player that he once was, and this year, the sky's the limit for him. He was considered one of the best linebackers in the league just 2 years ago, and now he's signed for basically nothing. So, he's going to have all the opportunity that he needs in Philadelphia. It's just a matter of him taking advantage of it, and from what we're seeing early, it sure seems like he's going to.
I'm hyped to see it. Like you say, yes, he's still in the prime of his athletic career, the athleticism. He hasn't lost his step. He's 26 years old. So he's got tons of time. He certainly left nothing like of a decline on that side. And he did. He made a couple plays, to your point. He made a couple plays in OTAs, 7-on-7s, broke up a pass on a wheel route to Saquon Barkley. So, that's saying something, because if you're matching against Saquon Barkley, it's all right, it's not Kenny G. No, I'm sorry, Kenny G just caught a stray, but it's Saquon Barkley, right? So come on, I shouldn't have done that to Kenny G, but we'll move on. There are some other changes, unexpected changes on the defense. Actually, the numbers. So again, the official look good, feel good, play good president Anthony DiBona. This is a shocking one because you texted me and I was driving, so I didn't even know. And I actually, all I saw first before I saw the actual picture in the tweet was I'm outraged. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? I was like, who got cut or traded or something? And then, come to find out, it's maybe a little less than that. But that was understandably, Josh Sweat has changed his number to 19. What on earth is going on here? And what are his chances to, I don't know, make the roster, perform well this season? Where are we at with Josh Sweat?
I tweeted that this could be a career-ending decision for Josh Sweat because, obviously I'm joking, but right. It's just if you look at the players that have worn 19 in Philly, you got Tanner McKee, Ian Book, everybody's favorite J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Golden Tate, Paul Turner, Miles Austin. So, that's since 2012, I believe. So those names are not encouraging. Josh Sweat is heading into the final year of his deal in Philadelphia, so maybe he wants to go out with the opposite of a bang, because this is just an awful decision. He wore number 9 in college. I was trying to kind of reason with why he would do that. Number 9 still available, but the Eagles don't want to give it up for Nick Foles, obviously. So I guess 19 is kind of the closest he could get to wearing. I don't know. It's just, hopefully he can make it look good, but it's hard to. I just think of a backup quarterback or a washed up wide receiver whenever I see 19. So I don't know. It's not encouraging for sure.
It is. Yeah. I don't know. Seeing it whenever we finally do, and even in practice, it'll be one thing, but in a game, that's going to be 19 of all things, because it was Tanner McKee. And also for the record, for those that are not aware, Tanner McKee is 16. He took Will Greer's 16. And Will Greer is, who knows, he'll end up with a 47 or something. Who knows what Will Greer is, but he hasn't been officially posted. So
he probably got 13.
That's true. Somehow. Yeah, maybe he took 13, the number that other people were actually maybe going to go for. So, yeah. But I don't know. I was with you. Whenever we were talking about it before this, and it's I don't fully understand that, because to me, the number previously is perfectly fine. I understand getting out of the 70s, right? That made some sense. But if you stick at 94, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. I liked it. I know that some people
let
don't.
Let me be professional for a second, because we talked about this before we started recording. But so my theory is that because 19 was available when he got drafted.
Okay.
But obviously edge players weren't allowed to wear that back then. But then obviously he started, I think, with 75 when he started playing. Then he switched to 94. Then obviously he developed into one of their better players. So his jersey was being sold a lot more. And if it's anything like the NBA, then when players change their number, they have to buy out the existing stock. So, I mean, maybe now 19 became available and he wanted to wear it before, but he didn't want to buy all the jerseys, or now Bryce Huff replaced his jerseys on rack, so he has to buy less jerseys. So maybe that's what it is. Regardless, it's an ugly number and I hate it, but we'll see.
Just a little bit. I love the opinion on that one too, and I am in agreement. As a lot of people were. If you go and look at the tweets, which you have, I know, but people that have not, there's not many that appeared to be in too much support of a 19 for Sweaty J. But if hopefully that's the number of sacks he's getting. Now that's what we can go with. The goal of he's just giving himself a goal. He wants to have it on the jersey. Sack numbers for this season would be crazy. You never know. It's just one of those. Jersey number analytics isn't important. Some people say it is. Some people think it matters.
It's the most important thing in the world.
But it is. Speaking of, though, because you did bring up Nick Foles and the reason of him not being in number 9.
Oh, no.
This is something that really caught a lot of heat of you, and you've got some great content. Again, Anthony DiBona, Pro Football Network, NFL analyst. You wrote an article. You've written a series of articles. So the link's in the description for people who want to check it out. And please go do. And then also make sure to comment and comment to Anthony your thoughts on this, because he hasn't gotten enough. He has not gotten enough of these. The specific one that I'm going to bring up, though, and you already know this because we talked about it beforehand, but the top 5 quarterbacks in Philadelphia Eagles history. Nick Foles is not on that list. Why not? Why is he not? And give full context, like explain it. And yes, there's a link in the description, so don't just overreact to me saying that. But.
So if people actually clicked on the article, which I know, like I said before, people don't do these days.
People do not, no.
I kind of wanted to embrace like longevity and consistency with the team, not like 2 separate tenures and things like that, because Norm Van Brocklin was another guy that I got roasted for not including.
Yeah, yep.
But he played before segregation was even a thing. So it's just like, he's just played so long ago that I was like,
so
I don't
far
know.
Back there.
Yeah, I mean, he was obviously a great player, but he only played in Philly for 3 years. People were like, oh, he was the only one to beat Vince Lombardi and won MVP and all this stuff. But like, he had 55. I know it was a different game, different era, but he had 55 passing touchdowns, 51 interceptions. I mean, that's really not that impressive to me. I know people want to be like, you weren't around to watch it, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm sorry, I just can't put that guy in the top 5. But what really got people upset is that I have Carson Wentz as number 5 on the list, which is they're like, how could you have him over Nick Foles? You're an idiot. Journalism is dead, blah, blah, blah. So once again, my theory was that if you look at Carson Wentz's career, I know people hate him because of the way he left Philadelphia, but I stand by the fact that they don't win that Super Bowl without him. Granted, you could say they don't win it without Nick Foles either, but I don't think they're in position to secure home field and things like that without the way that Wentz was playing. And in totality, I feel like his numbers with the Eagles were just as good as Foles, if not better. So, I mean, I think he did it for longer, so that's why I gave him the edge. Obviously, I know he didn't win the Super Bowl. He didn't win Super Bowl MVP.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. I get it, but like I said, Nick Foles kind of went 2 years away from the Eagles. He had the 27-2 season early in his career, but then took a break from the Eagles, was terrible away from the Eagles, and then really didn't do much as a starter until he got that opportunity. So, but I have Wentz 5, Jalen Hurts 4, Ron Jaworski 3, Randall Cunningham 2, and McNabb 1. So if anybody wants to discuss, you can reply on Twitter, and I'll probably mute the conversation. But no, in all seriousness, I appreciate everybody that reads the list. I didn't say this because I wanted clicks or engagement. This is honestly, truly how I feel. So, I mean, I have other lists coming out, such as best Eagles teams of all time, top Eagles coaches, best Eagles draft picks, best Eagles signings of all time. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot more for you to either love or hate, but I appreciate the support and the discussion regardless. So.
Absolutely, yes. And we can disagree, but I can understand the reasoning behind it, because Nick Foles for me would have to be at 5. But yeah, I also do agree with you the point that there's no way they do that without Wentz. He got them almost there and then Nick Foles helped.
And also, it's not like I don't have Nick Foles. Like I don't talk about him in the article at all. It's just
for
like,
sure. Yes,
I just don't
absolutely.
have him right there. So it's just like,
right.
I don't know. I mean, if I put him at 5, are you feeling that much better about? Like I don't know. It's just whatever. You know, it's okay.
Yes, but people overreact. So the emotions were high, nonetheless. Because to your point, whenever
even like the team at PFN, they were like, "This thing is blowing up. What did you do?" One of the guys at PFN literally told me, he's like, "My neighbor." He was like, "Your boy messed up that. Like, why isn't Foles on that list?"
Oh
I was
my
like,
gosh,
it's just it became a much bigger thing than it needed to be.
I mean,
it's fun.
It is. There's a statue outside of the link, so understandably, people are going to be
like,
wait a second, hang on here. What? He didn't make it, but I can understand the thought process, even if we agree to disagree on that one. And people comment, too, in the video here. Again, I've got the link in the description, so go read the whole thing before you have an opinion, and then, feel free to let us know.
Don't do that. The comments were too positive last video. I don't want negative.
It's inevitable. It's balancing it out. We can't always have the best. Sometimes it's smile and wave, and sometimes it's like, okay, maybe not. But
I'll take it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it as always coming on, man. If you are not, though, by the way, make sure to go follow Anthony. I got a link in the description as well. All of his content on Pro Football Network, also on Twitter. Incredible follow. And like you said, you've got a bunch of other lists coming out, especially because we've got like a 2-ish more weeks of OTAs. And then it's basically nothing. I mean, there'll be something, but it's basically nothing. We have a long time until training camp. So the extra content is very much appreciated for me and everybody else, but always a blast to have you on.
It was fun. And PFN as a whole has a whole iconic series coming out. So they're pretty much rating every position that you could think of, every team that you could think of. So definitely check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Definitely go do that. Alrighty. Hey, and also appreciate to happy Memorial Day weekend. Have a happy Memorial Day to all those who served. Also, all those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. You guys are the real heroes. So, hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. And until next time, we'll see you guys. Go Birds.
Later.